Most people think ponds are expensive. They think you need a big backyard, a pump, a filter, plumbing, electricity. But what if I told you one of my favourite ponds has none of those things? Today I want to show you how almost anyone can build a tiny ecosystem on an incredibly small budget. But first, if you don't know me, my name is Kev, and I help people build and maintain ponds without spending a fortune. If that sounds like your cup of tea, you might like to subscribe and definitely check out Ozponds.com. Okay, so these small ponds are fantastic for someone with limited space. Maybe you're renting, you have a small apartment, but you want to enjoy pond life. Maybe you're just starting out on your pond journey. Starting small is a great way to start, low risk and high reward. Or maybe you just want a fun project to set up with the kids. Whatever your reason, these little ponds bring heaps of enjoyment and relaxation as you watch the ecosystem develop. You get to watch and interact with nature up close, even if you live in a concrete jungle. So you might be wondering, yeah, sounds great, Kev, but how can I have a pond without a pump or a filter? Don't I need moving water to prevent it from going gross? And if it's stagnant, won't it just breed mosquitoes? It won't, because we'll create a complete ecosystem. We're going to create a living substrate that stores nutrients for plants and provides a home for bacteria, fungi, tiny little critters that break down waste and recycle it back into the ecosystem. Plants will help soak up nutrients, they're going to provide oxygen into the water and into the substrate via their roots. We'll add a few small fish to graze on the tiny little critters that'll call the pond home. And yes, they'll eat some mosquito larvae that may occur. So will dragonflies and their offspring. They love to eat mosquitoes, and they'll just appear naturally, and they're super fun to watch. All of these things are working in harmony to create a balance. It's ecology right there on a tiny scale for you to observe and interact with. Okay, so how do you build it? First, you need a container that holds water, any container. I like wine barrels and old pots, but you could use storage containers or totes, old bathtubs, whatever's cheap or you have lying around. Then you add in a layer of dirt. Nothing crazy, just an inch or two deep. You can dig up dirt from the backyard or buy a bag of potting mix. I've used both methods. Just use whatever's easiest for you. I like to wet the dirt a little and then add in some sand. This sand layer prevents the nutrient-rich soil or dirt from mixing directly with the water. Lots of nutrients floating around in the water can cause lots of algae, so we want to avoid that. For the sand, I usually just buy the stuff for kids' sand pits. I've also used landscaper sand and river sand. The sand layer is about 2 inches thick, but it can be a little deeper if you like. The plant roots will find their way through the sand and into the nutrient-rich soil layer in no time. Now we can add in the water, but we want to do it carefully. Remember, we don't want any soil getting mixed with the water. That sand cap needs to stay intact. You don't need to do anything to the water like a dechlorinator or bacteria products. I mean, you can if you want, it won't hurt, but I don't find it necessary. It might be a little cloudy after adding the water, but that's fine. Now you can add some plants. And you want diversity. You're going to want some submerged plants that root into the substrate and are easy to grow. Rutala and eelgrass are two common plants that I use. You'll also want some plants that pull nutrients directly from the water. That can be floating plants like duckweed or water lettuce. I also like to add in some marginal plants. These are plants that have their roots in the water or substrate, but the majority of their growth is outside the water. In this pond I've got some impatiens growing. I like the pop of colour. You can also go scouring around local parks and wetlands for water-loving plants. I like to experiment and find new plants that thrive in these mini setups. The trick's just having that diversity of different types of plants and something that's suited to your climate. Once it's planted, I like to let it settle for a few weeks and then you can add some fish. I'm in Australia, so there's a few small natives that I like to keep in these ponds. But I also like to keep Japanese rice fish and white cloud mountain minnows. Both of these are really common fish and they're available in most places. They're both really hardy and they do fine in cold water. And if you live somewhere tropical, you might like to keep small tropical fish. I do also like adding a small shrimp species. I keep cherry shrimp and some small native Australian shrimp in my ponds, but again, whatever suits your climate. We only want to use small species because the pond is small and we care about quality of life for the animals in our care. But also because they produce smaller amounts of waste, and this is important. We don't have a dedicated filter processing that waste. Now, small ponds like this will heat and cool faster than large ponds, so it's best practice if you can place the pond in a spot that's sheltered. If you have a small balcony that's exposed to really hot afternoon sun, maybe you could surround the pond with some potted plants and make a little oasis and microclimate around the pond. The other benefit of a sheltered position is that in winter it can help keep ponds warmer. Many of my mini ponds are under the roof line. This helps prevent any freezing where I live. It also prevents overflow during rain events, which might cause the fish to escape. But look, some of you live in areas where the winters are severe. I know, you've sent me pictures. And if that's the case, you have a few options. Treat these mini ponds as seasonal and keep an aquarium indoors for the winter. Some of you might even like to just build the mini pond inside to begin with. I also know some of you cover the pond in winter, the plants are dormant anyway, and maybe you add a little heater. There are options, but again it depends on your climate and what you personally want to do. It's crazy how quickly new life starts showing up in the little oasis you've created. Dragonflies and damselflies visit and lay their eggs, so do frogs. Water beetles just appear, I have no idea from where. Snails seem to hitchhike in on plants, tiny copepods and daphne show up, and tiny worms in the substrate. This little natural food chain helps process nutrient and waste and provides natural foods for your fish. It's amazing how much life shows up. I can lose track of time just peering into this tiny ecosystem, but it's very relaxing. So there's a few common mistakes that pop up. You can have too many fish and that means too much waste, and if the ecosystem can't process it, you're going to have problems. Then you've got too much food going into the system. Everyone wants to feed the fish. I know it's fun, but it's better if you let the ecosystem find its own balance. A little here and there can be okay, but if water quality starts to suffer, you need to back off on the feeding. Another one's not enough plants. The plants are soaking up nutrients, and they're a big part of our natural filtration system. And if they don't soak up enough nutrients, you're going to have problems. And then you've got people trying to keep everything super clean. These systems are nature, and nature can be messy. Embrace a little chaos. Seasons will change, and sometimes the plants grow fast, sometimes they don't. Sometimes algae will show up to absorb nutrients, and this is nature. The maintenance on these systems is quite minimal. You will need to thin out plants occasionally. The plants are taking up nutrient, but if we let them decompose inside the pond, all that nutrient's re-released. Some decomposing plant materials are fine. It helps feed the little bacteria and critters that are helping filter the water. But if you're heading into winter and all the plants will die off all of a sudden, I wouldn't leave all that material in the pond decomposing. Where I live, some plants will die off completely over winter, but some will just slow down. At some stage you'll need to top up the water. Not all water is equal. Some's going to have higher nutrient loads than others, say if you're in a well, and some jurisdictions add stuff to the water. I top mine up straight from the tap, and that's had no issues for me. You just want to monitor the situation and see what happens. You can use water conditioners, and I'll put a link in the description if you don't know what those are. Rainwater or filtered water are also great options for doing a top-up. If you think you have nutrients that are building up too fast, you can do a partial water change. So say you take out 20% of the water and then you replace it with new water. That's going to dilute the nutrients that are inside the pond. If you have string or hair algae, this is a great nutrient sponge and you can scoop it out and dispose of it. That removes those nutrients in the same way that thinning out plants does. If your water is green, you have too much nutrient floating around inside the water, and that might mean you've broken the sand cap and the tiny algae is using that nutrient to grow. A fast-growing plant like duckweed can help combat this. And that's basically all I do to these ponds. I keep them topped up, remove excess plant or algae growth, and I feed them sparingly and just enjoy them. These ponds are so cheap and so simple, and they're basically accessible to anyone on any budget. They teach you so much about the way water's filtered and all the various interactions that form a vibrant food chain, And of course you have no running costs. I've got many of these mini ponds set up. They remind me of the way that the water in nature is filtered and how I can implement that approach inside my larger ponds. In these larger ponds I like to use pumps and filters, but I still use the same sorts of principles as the mini ponds: substrates, plants, bacteria, fungi and food chains. I like to incorporate bog filters that mimic natural wetlands. These process lots of nutrients and provide heaps of habitat for the same sorts of beneficial critters that call the mini ponds home. As I move the water through the filter system, I like to incorporate natural elements like streams and waterfalls. These are great at adding oxygen to the water that improves the overall biology of the whole system. But whether you want to build a mini pond or something larger, I do have plenty of resources you can use over at Ozponds.com. I hope this video has been helpful. If so, give the thumbs up button a little tickle for me. And you might like to watch this video on how I built one of these systems in a tiny plant pot. Thanks for watching. See ya.